I made a video earlier today when I came out of the shower after I dried myself. I recorded a message called Test All Things, Examine Those Around You. Because it's written in Scripture, in the New Testament, that we need to test all things and retain the good. Now, a lot of folks, due to their background in pagan Christianity or the religion in general, they interpreted test all things in a religious context. It's that's not what's meant over there. What's meant there is that you ought to be alert and notice things. Test all things. It didn't say test all things with Scripture. It didn't say test all things with Old and New Testament. It said just test all things and retain the good. So in every circumstance you are, or whatever's going on around you, test all things to retain the good. You don't test all things to look for the bad. You test all things to retain the good. Retain, so the good is around, you just need to find it. Because darkness, evil are just thick clouds that are sticking around. It's not reality itself, but for some people, those thick clouds are reality, which is not true. That's irreality, it's a lie. So, test all things is intended to retain the good. Because, capture this, the enemy, his weapon is to distort your perception. And once your perception is distorted, you can't retain the good. Because you can't see the good once your perception is distorted. That's why you test all things. And now, there's one thing I want to bring to your attention. Maybe you already know this because I've spoken about this earlier in other videos. But anytime someone gets a promotion, anywhere, pay attention to the reactions. This may sound like a very simple message, and you may think, Rashid, why are you speaking about this subject? We already know this, well, I need to speak about it. Anytime anyone increases in anything, anywhere, look at the reactions. Because the reactions will show you how that individual is promoted is either going to be treated, or it will give you an indication of what might happen to the individual next. If you want to give a parable, I'll give a parable. You have Jack as a fisherman. He's from some village in the province of Zeeland in the Netherlands. Let's say he lives in the 18th century. He was a fisherman, and suddenly he becomes a minister for the Admiralty of Zeeland. Now, as a minister of the Admiralty, he doesn't fish anymore, so now he has his children doing it. The fishing business is transferred to his kids, and he's now making decisions about foreign trade with the Americas. Now, when Jack is an English name, let me use a Dutch name. When Johan is a Dutch version of John. When Johan was promoted, very few people came to his inauguration. When he was just a fisherman, and had to spend days on the lakes or days on sea to capture fish, often didn't catch anything. When he was like that, man, he could just enter a pub, he could just enter the marketplace, and he could say hi, and everyone would welcome him, kind of. After the news spread, he became a minister for the Admiralty. After that, when he walked into the marketplace, people wouldn't even see him. They did see him, but they allowed him to notice they saw him. So everyone was invited to the inauguration, and he expected over 200 people over there, because he knew quite some folks. Only 4 people appeared at his inauguration. Now, Johan was optimistic. He was glad the 4 that came. He didn't bother with the 196 that he expected to come, but didn't show up. But one of the colleagues of Johan, who had been a minister for a couple of years, told Johan, listen, you expect over 200 people to come, right? Johan said, yeah. Then the older minister told him, where are all those people now? And Johan thought, what do you mean, sir? And the minister told him, Johan, it has been 2 months since you've been promoted. All right? Only 4 people came to your inauguration, or it can be that others had things to do. So you can't blame people. They may have legitimate reasons why they couldn't come. But how many people congratulated you after your inauguration? How many people ask how you are at the job? How many people relate to you in a positive manner after your inauguration? And then Johan thought, well, actually, only those 4 people bothered to ask how I am and all of that. And then the older minister told them, Johan, you're 25 now. I used to be that age also 20 years ago. And I want to spare you some trouble. Once you get your wage next month, because there are ships coming from Suriname, so we have some bonus in our wages. Once you get your wage, please move out of Zeeland, move to Holland, where you move to The Hague, or you move to Amsterdam, or what's the name again of the city, Alkmaar, or whatever place you go to, just move out of here. And then the minister, let's say Johan told them, but if I move out of Zeeland, I work with Admiralty over here. And the minister told them, listen, you can work with Admiralty everywhere in the Republic of the Netherlands. It doesn't matter. I mean, we're still a union over here anyway. There are many of us working all over the place. I'm telling you, do not stay over here. Johan listened to the elder minister, and he moved to a town near Amsterdam at the sea. And over there, he continued his work as a minister for the Admiralty of Zeeland, because all the admiralties had to work together to make things work. And it's then that Johan realized, hold on a minute, this is quite weird. I was just a single fisherman who barely catch any fish. So that was a hard life, a very hard one. And people were so fine with me. Now that I'm a minister, and as a minister I can influence decision making for the public. Now suddenly they don't even know who I am. And Johan also noticed I get a lot of back pain often since he became a minister. And it's then that Johan realized that he was under the psychic attack. It's then that Johan figured out the harsh truth. And one of the 4 people that came to his inauguration even wrote him a letter and told him, Johan, please don't come back to Middelburg. Really, don't come back over here. Because there ain't nothing happy for you over here. The day Johan left, many people in Middelburg, which at the time was the capital of the province of Zeeland, I believe. Anyway, it was an important port. Many people in Middelburg began to accuse him, saying he thinks he's everything. He was just an unimportant fisherman. Now that he's a minister, he thinks we all have to acknowledge him. And so there were a lot of accusations against him. And here's the thing, most of those accusations were not based in reality at all. Because when Johan was just a simple fisherman, he was on the seas or on the lakes fishing all the time. He had no time to interfere with anyone's affairs. He was almost a loner when he was a fisherman. Many people knew him, but was like a loner most of the time. Now as a minister, he didn't have to work that hard. He had a higher wage. He had more privileges. Now why are people so upset with him now? When he was just a simple fisherman, when he would spend days away on the seas or on the lake, nobody bothered with him. Why did they bother with him now? Here's why. They based their sense of self, they based a good feeling about themselves as a community on the fact that this Johan could not catch any fish. He was a fisherman with difficulty catching fish. So he was a laughing stock. So they based their feeling good about himself upon his alleged failure. And here's the thing, there were times Johan catch a lot of fish, but he would sell it immediately because he couldn't keep all the fish. But nobody paid attention to the times he catch a lot of fish. They just didn't want to see all of that. For them, they needed him to be the loser so they could feel like the winners. So when he got a promotion, their foundation for feeling good about themselves disappeared. So now they had to face themselves. Now they had to face their narcissistic attitude. Oh, they didn't want that. But they couldn't prevent his promotion because his promotion already happened. So that's why the older minister told Johan to leave the province. Why? Because when that minister was younger, 20, and he joined the admiralty, he had people coming after his life. And those people that came after his life used to be former friends, some relatives, or even people from church. They came after his life. And he was assaulted 5 times between ages 21 and 23. He almost lost his life each time he was assaulted. So that guy, the hard way, learned that common people often cannot handle your promotion, especially when your promotion is out of their control. So when Johan was promoted to minister, he warned Johan, get out of here. Why? Because that elder minister knew if people are not willing to rejoice in your promotion, that means because they have some benefit in your failure. They have a benefit in your frustration. They have a benefit. They have invested in your doom somewhere. And the fact now that their investment has been nullified upsets them. So it's all about their own investment. It's not about you. They couldn't care less about you. They just want you to fulfill that role for them to sustain their narcissistic gratification. Now, in this parable of this Johan, a fisherman became a minister, it's obvious what's going on. But at our times, it's not that obvious. That's why I want you to just think clearly about this for a moment. If you would receive a big promotion today, how many folks would congratulate you? How many folks would remain around you? How many folks would remain interested in you when you get a promotion? Too often people think it's when things go wrong with you that nobody wants anything to do with you. Now there are times indeed, if you live in a society where people don't want to face anything, then of course when there are bad stuff happening to you, people tend to leave you. But too often pay attention to that only. Pay close attention to those that disappear once you have a promotion. I'm telling you, that's one thing many people don't pay attention to. Pay attention to those that disappear after you get a promotion. And the promotion doesn't have to be at the job. It can be that you had sickness that haunted you. It's something the sickness is gone. When you had the sickness, you had people coming by showing sympathy to you. Now that you're healed and you're more in joy, now suddenly they're not around. Now what's going on? Those people were the type of narcissists that want to feel good about themselves by being around others who are worse off than they are. They were not in a good state to begin with, but they want to be around folks that were worse off than them so they could feel good about themselves. So when you had that sickness that haunted you, they could feel comfortable being around you because they could compare themselves to you and feel good about themselves. But now that the sickness is gone, the basis of them relating to you has to change. But for it to change, that means they need to find some other way to relate to you. They relate to you in a negative manner, but avoid seeing it because you were in a bad state. Now you're not in the bad state anymore. They had to face themselves. And they don't want this. Now they stay away from you. Often, when people just vanish from you, let me say, this is what often happens to people, and people vanish from them, they begin to ask why. Some people, they repress the past, they pretend as if it never happened, and they so-called move on. That's not the wise thing to do. That you ask questions, the right questions, you want answers, that's the right thing. So you process things. Now, to help you process things, I'm showing it to you. Anytime you have a promotion, pay attention to the reactions. Not only, let's say this is only for you. When someone else gets a promotion, pay attention to the reactions of other people. If one of your parents, say, if your father got a promotion, pay attention to how the other relatives respond and react to it. Pay attention to how the community relates to him after the promotion. That's very important. Or whoever it is, pay attention to how others respond to them. Don't you know that there are folks who do this and they avoid becoming the target of violence because they pay attention to how others are treated? Let me explain. Let's say now that this Johan, instead of moving to, what's the name of the place again? Den Helder, for example, or Alkmaar. Let's say that he moved to some others, instead of moving to some other places, he remained in Middelburg, or to a town in Middelburg, maybe it's Goes or whatever village it was. Let's say now this Johan had some friends, okay? And those friends hung out with him. Those were the 4 people. But the wife of one of the 4 people tells her husband, "Dear, I don't think it's a wise thing for you to hang out with this Johan." And the friend tells his wife, "Honey, listen, I've been buddies with a guy for so long. That guy is real to me. That guy isn't a backstabber or anything like that. And you tell me not to hang out with him? He's a good fella, come on." And the wife tells him, "Honey, have you noticed how angry people look at him when he's around? And here's the thing, he's not a criminal. He doesn't cheat on the people like the politicians do. So people have no reason whatsoever to be upset with him. But haven't you noticed how enraged they look at him?" And then the friend says, "Well, some people are just jealous." And then the wife tells him, "Dear, this goes beyond jealousy and envy. These people are upset with themselves. There are things they don't want to face. And they base their sense of happiness on the unhappiness of that Johan. But that Johan was never unhappy to begin with. He developed as a fisherman, and while he was active as a fisherman, he met other people that led them to promote him to become a minister." Okay? So he wasn't a failure to begin with. But people had to see him as a failure to feel good about themselves. But now they are confronted with this prosperity. Now their narcissistic rage is triggered. So now they need to act out their frustration somewhere because they are frustrated and no one's carrying the tension is affecting them. They don't want that. But now they blame Johan for it. So honey, listen, if you keep hanging around Johan, sooner or later, people are going to notice you around him. And because they're so desperate to unload their narcissistic wrath, they'll come after you. And you and I and our kids will be in danger. I'm telling you, don't hang around this Johan. Well, in this parable, the wife of one of those friends was alert. She saw things coming. And I want you to be able to see things coming too. That's why I'm telling you to pay attention to people's reactions to someone's promotion, whether it's yours or someone else. Pay attention to it. There are people out there who are not believers, they don't follow Christ, but they manage to avoid bad situations by just being alert. Pay attention to how someone is treated after he or she is promoted. If the treatment decreases in quality, then you know that sooner or later a time bomb will go off. If the quality of some people increase, then it may be that people are really rejoicing, or it can be that they're using flattery. You just need to check out. Just be alert to how people react to to someone's promotion. It's very important. Don't you know that Christ saw through people's motives? Of course, he's God, he knows everything. Okay, apart from that, Christ's attitude taught us to pay attention to people's reaction to your promotion. When Christ began his ministry, he was going around teaching, healing people, and doing all of that. When he came to Nazareth, okay, pay close attention, he came to Nazareth and he ministered unto them as a teacher. He didn't perform any miracles, he didn't enforce anything on them, he just came to preach in a synagogue. What was the reaction of his relatives and the people he grew up with? Well, unbelief. They hardened their heart, they became upset, they turned on him. I'm telling you, Christ was alert. Christ could only reach a few people over there, and he left. Christ was alert. There were times people began to rejoice in him, but he saw that they only wanted to force him to become their king. They wanted to use him to start some rebellion against Rome, to enforce political agenda. So when Christ realized this, he backed off from them. Christ saw through people's reactions. And that is something you as follower need to learn also. See through people's reactions. That's it for now. Be at peace.